The WNBA just had the most chaotic night in league history, and almost nobody is talking about why. A rookie just made history in front of a half-empty energy in the building. A former president showed up out of nowhere and said something that instantly went viral. And one national newspaper published a paragraph so explosive it's still lighting up every corner of sports media right now. If you think you already know what happened at WNBA All-Star Weekend in Chicago, I promise you don't have the full story yet. Stay with me to the end, because the last part of this video is the piece nobody's fully connecting together. Before we get into this, I need you to do one thing for me. Hit that subscribe button. Not because I'm asking nicely, because if you care about getting the real story before the internet turns it into a meme, this channel is where you're gonna find it first, every single time. Alright, let's break this whole weekend down. A rookie steals the night. Let's start with the actual basketball, because buried under everything else, something genuinely historic happened on Friday night at Wintrust Arena. Dallas Wings rookie Azzi Fudd, the #1 overall pick in this year's draft, walked into the three-point contest as the only first-year player in the entire field and walked out with the trophy. She became the first rookie ever to win the competition. In the final round, she drained her first 6 shots in a row on her way to a 30-point performance, edging out Portland's Bridget Carleton, who needed 31 to force a tie and fell just short with 19. For a player who battled serious knee injuries throughout her college career before finally breaking through, this was a full-circle moment. Fudd already won a national championship at UConn and was named Most Outstanding Player of that Final Four. Now she's got a WNBA trophy in her first professional season too. Here's the twist, though. The player everyone expected to be the centerpiece of Friday night wasn't even on the floor for it. The star who wasn't there, Caitlin Clark, officially declined her invitation to the three-point contest this year. She showed up for shoot-around, she did her media obligations, and she was locked in for Saturday's actual All-Star game. But Friday night's shooting competition, she sat out. Now, plenty of online commentary this week has tried to frame this as some kind of statement that Clark is quietly boycotting everything the league puts in front of her unless it directly involves her own sponsors. That's an opinion you'll hear a lot of if you go looking for it, and it's fueled by a real frustration a lot of fans have about how she's been treated this season. But here's what's actually confirmed. Her team has been deliberately cautious with her body all year, after an injury-plagued 2025 that wiped out her entire postseason. Skipping one Friday night shooting contest to stay fresh for a real playoff push is a business decision, not a scandal. Keep that in mind, because how you read Clark's choices this weekend is about to matter a lot more once you hear what happened next. The moment that actually silenced the room. On Friday, before any of the competitions even started, something happened that nobody saw coming. Former President Barack Obama showed up unannounced at his own presidential center in Chicago, where the WNBA All-Stars were holding practice. He walked onto the court, spoke to the players for a few minutes, and then spent time individually shaking hands and taking photos. When he got to Clark, he told her directly not to let the noise get to her, reflecting on his own path to fame. Clark later said the moment was one she'd remember for the rest of her life, and admitted that people forget she's still only in her mid-20s while carrying an enormous amount of public scrutiny. That scrutiny is exactly what makes the next part of this story so loaded, because just one day before Obama's surprise visit, a completely different kind of national attention landed on Clark, and this one wasn't warm at all. The column that blew up the internet. On Wednesday, a USA Today sports columnist named Nancy Armour published a piece criticizing Clark for what she called excessive flopping and complaining to officials. That part alone wouldn't have made headlines. Sports columnists criticize star players all the time. But one paragraph in that column changed everything. Armour wrote that there's a troubling pattern in this country of black people being harmed in the name of defending white women, and directly connected that history to Emmett Till, the 14-year-old boy lynched in 1955, noting that this year's All-Star Game happens to be taking place in Till's hometown of Chicago. The backlash was immediate and enormous. Journalists from across the industry, including senior writers at major outlets, publicly called the comparison one of the most bizarre editorial choices they'd ever seen make it into print. Armour eventually posted a statement calling her wording inartful. While still standing by the broader point she said, she was trying to make about threats faced by black players in the league. USA Today, for its part, defended the column as clearly labeled opinion and made a quiet edit for what it called added context and clarity, but declined to walk it back entirely. That response only added fuel to the fire. Media personality Dave Portnoy went on national television and tore into both the columnist and her editors, arguing that comparing a foul call to a real historical lynching trivialized an actual atrocity, and calling for consequences beyond just an apology. Meanwhile, NBA Commissioner Adam Silver had recently made his own comment on the broader situation, suggesting Clark has effectively been turned into what he called a political football, rather than simply being appreciated for her play. So within the span of about 48 hours, Caitlin Clark went from the subject of a national firestorm over a sports column gone wrong, to standing on a basketball court with a former president telling her not to let any of it get to her. That's not a coincidence of timing. That's basically the entire Caitlin Clark experience compressed into 2 days, and it tells you everything about the environment she's playing in right now. What this all adds up to. Strip away the noise, and here's what actually happened at this year's All-Star Weekend. A rookie wrote her name into league history with ice in her veins. A former president used his platform to publicly defend the league's biggest star. And a national newspaper found itself at the center of one of the most heavily criticized sports columns in recent memory. One so controversial it pulled political commentators, media critics, and NBA executives into a conversation that started as a basketball story and ended up somewhere much bigger. And Saturday night, the actual All-Star game still had to be played, with every one of these storylines hanging over the arena. If you think this is the last time a Caitlin Clark storyline turns into a full-blown national conversation, you clearly haven't been paying attention to the last 3 years. This is exactly why I keep coming back to break these moments down instead of just repeating the headlines everyone else is throwing out, because the real story is always more complicated than the loudest take online, and if you want that story every single time it happens, subscribing is how you make sure you never miss it. Drop your take in the comments. Do you think this column crosses a real line, or is it getting blown out of proportion? I'll see you in the next one.